I was staring at my phone when the text came through. 3 words that made my blood run cold. They arrested Mom. My hand trembled as I read Chloe's message again. Then another one popped up immediately after. Dad too. This is your fault. I hope you're happy now. You vindictive witch. I should have felt guilty. I should have felt something other than the cold satisfaction spreading through my chest. But all I could think about was the scar on my back. Still visible in the mirror every morning. The one my own mother gave me with a wooden chair 3 months ago. If you want to hear how a doormat became the villain in her own family story, and why sometimes revenge is the only medicine that works, hit that like button and subscribe. You're going to want to hear this one all the way through. Drop a comment below telling me what you would have done in my situation. Now let me take you back to where it all began. It started on a Tuesday morning, 26 years old. Unemployed for 7 months. Living in a basement that smelled like mildew and failure. My bedroom was a joke. Twin mattress on a metal frame. Clothes in garbage bags because my sister Chloe had claimed the dresser for her overflow junk. One tiny window near the ceiling that barely let in light. The walls literally wept moisture. This was what being a good daughter had earned me. 73 job applications in 7 months. 4 interviews. 3 rejections. The 4th one was happening in exactly 45 minutes, and it was my last shot at escape. I'd spent 3 weeks preparing for this interview. Harrison Digital Media. Junior Marketing Coordinator. $38,000 a year. To most people, that was nothing. To me, it was freedom. It was a studio apartment. Groceries without counting pennies. A life that was actually mine. I'd bought a new blouse with cash I'd hidden in a tampon box. The only place in that house where I had privacy. Practiced my answers 40 times in the cracked bathroom mirror. Researched the company until I could recite their mission statement backward. 9:15 a.m. I set up my laptop on the kitchen table. Only decent lighting in the house. I'd scrubbed that kitchen for 3 hours the night before, trying to make it look less like the disaster it was. Yellowed linoleum. Crooked cabinets. Refrigerator humming like a dying engine. I adjusted the camera angle. Shoulders up. Least offensive wall behind me. Cream blouse. Black cardigan. Nate ponytail. Just enough makeup to look awake. Professional. Hireable. I looked like someone who had their life together. The irony was suffocating. 9:58. I logged in. Heart hammering. Hands shaking. This was it. 10 o'clock. Patricia Henley appeared on screen. HR director. Late 40s. Sharp, intelligent eyes behind rectangular glasses. She smiled and I almost cried because it had been so long since anyone had shown me basic kindness. Good morning, Aurora. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us today. Good morning, Patricia. Thank you for the opportunity. I'm really excited about this position, and I think my background in social media management would be a great fit for your team. Smooth. Confident. Exactly as rehearsed. She nodded, making notes. I've been reviewing your portfolio. Your nonprofit campaign showed real creativity. Can you walk me through your process? This was the question I'd hoped for. I opened my mouth. Thump. 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 Heavy footsteps exploded above us. Something crashed. Glass shattered. Then Chloe's voice. Shrill and vicious. Ripping through the ceiling like a chainsaw. Rory, get your lazy ass up here right now. My room looks like a garbage dump. Clean it before Mom gets home or you're dead. Every muscle locked. My face burned. On screen, Patricia's warmth evaporated. Her eyes flickered with something between pity and disgust. My hands trembled toward the mute button. I'm so sorry. Just one moment, please. I muted my microphone and tilted my head back toward the ceiling. Chloe, I'm in the middle of a job interview. I need you to please be quiet. Clean your own room. My voice was low but firm. I thought maybe, just maybe, she'd respect the boundary I was trying to set. I thought maybe this one time, she'd show a shred of human decency. I should have known better. The footsteps thundered toward the stairs. I heard each heavy thud as Chloe descended. Her approach announced like a coming storm. I turned back to my laptop screen and unmuted myself, trying desperately to salvage the situation. I apologize for that interruption. As I was saying, My approach to that nonprofit campaign began with extensive research into their target demographic, and the kitchen door burst open with enough force that it slammed against the wall. Chloe stood in the doorway, 23 years old, but acting like a teenager throwing a tantrum. Her hair was a tangled mess. Last night's makeup smeared grotesquely down her face, mascara creating dark raccoon circles around her eyes. She was wearing silk pajamas that cost more than my entire wardrobe, a Christmas gift from our mother. Her phone was already in her hand. I noticed, always ready to document, to perform, to turn every moment into content for her social media followers. Are you seriously ignoring me right now? I just told you to come clean my room. What part of that is unclear to you? I stared at her, aware that Patricia was watching this entire scene unfold, aware that my one chance, my lifeline out of this house, was disintegrating in real time. Chloe, I am in a job interview. En important interview. Please leave. She laughed. Actually laughed. The sound harsh and mocking. A job interview. You who would even want to interview someone like you. Let me guess. It's for another minimum wage position that you'll get fired from in a few months. What was it last time? Oh, right. They said you couldn't handle basic responsibilities. Something about poor work ethic and inability to meet deadlines. Or was that the job before? They all kind of blur together, don't they? My fingernails dug into my palms under the table. I could feel Patricia watching, listening, forming opinions about me based on this chaos, this dysfunction that I had no control over. I was laid off because the company restructured, and the job before that ended because of budget cuts. Neither of those things were performance-related. Is that what you tell yourself? Is that how you sleep at night? Everyone knows the truth? Rory, you're incompetent. You can barely manage to keep this house clean, which is literally the only thing you're responsible for. How do you expect to hold down a real job when you can't even do simple household chores? The words hit like physical blows. Each one landed precisely where she meant it to, targeting every insecurity, every fear, every doubt I'd ever had about my own worth. My responsibilities are not limited to housework. I've been supporting this household in every way except financially, and that's only because I haven't been given the opportunity to. Supporting you call mooching off mom and dad's support. You're 26 years old, living rent-free in their house, eating their food, using their utilities, and you can't even be bothered to keep the place clean or help out your family when we need you. You're pathetic, genuinely pathetic. Before I could respond, before I could defend myself or ask her to leave or do anything at all, the front door opened. My mother walked in. Morgan Vance was 52 years old and looked like she'd spent every penny of my father's salary maintaining the illusion of upper-middle-class success. Her hair was highlighted to hide the gray, styled in a cut that probably cost $200. Her nails were manicured, a deep burgundy that matched her designer handbag. She wore expensive athleisure wear, the kind that suggested she went to the gym regularly, even though I'd never seen her exercise once. Everything about her screamed money and status that we didn't actually have, purchased on credit cards that I'd later discover were in my name. Her sharp eyes swept the kitchen, taking in the scene. Chloe standing in her pajamas. Me at the laptop, clearly in the middle of something. The dishes I'd washed still drying in the rack. Her expression hardened immediately. I knew that look. I'd seen it 1,000 times. It was the look that came before the storm, the warning signal that preceded destruction. What is going on here, Chloe? Why aren't you dressed? It's almost 10:30 in the morning. And why does your room look like a bomb went off? Chloe immediately shifted gears, her voice taking on a whining, victimized tone. I asked Rory to help me clean it up before you got home, but she refused. She's been sitting down here on her laptop all morning doing nothing while the house falls apart around her. My mother's gaze snapped to me. I saw my father slip in behind her. Arthur Vance in his standard uniform of khaki pants and a polo shirt, his newspaper already tucked under his arm. He didn't look at anyone, just made his way to his recliner in the adjoining living room, and settled in like he wasn't even part of this family. Just a spectator to our dysfunction. Mom, I'm in a job interview right now. I can't clean Chloe's room. She's an adult. She needs to clean it herself. The words came out more forcefully than I'd intended. Years of suppressed frustration leaked into my tone. I watched my mother's face flush red. You're what? You asked her to clean her own room. Excuse me, Patricia was still on the screen. I could see her in my peripheral vision. Her face carefully neutral now. No doubt wondering what kind of disaster she'd stumbled into. This was it. This was the moment my chance died. I could feel it slipping away. Mom, please. I really need to finish this interview. It's important. Can we discuss this later? My mother moved closer to the table. She was wearing heels, and each step made a sharp clicking sound against the kitchen floor. When she spoke, her voice was low and dangerous, the tone she used when she was truly angry. Let me make something very clear to you. Aurora, you don't give orders in this house. You don't tell your sister what to do. You don't decide what's important and what isn't. You are living here out of the goodness of our hearts, and the least you can do is contribute to this family instead of wasting time on pointless interviews for jobs you'll never keep. This isn't pointless. This is my future. This is my chance to finally. Your chance. Your future. Let me tell you about your future. Your future is right here. In this house. Making yourself useful to the people who've sacrificed everything to keep a roof over your ungrateful head. Something inside me snapped. Maybe it was the years of accumulated resentment. Maybe it was the humiliation of having this fight in front of a potential employer. Maybe it was just exhaustion, bone deep and complete, at being treated like I was less than human by the people who were supposed to love me. I am not a servant. I am not Chloe's maid. I have been taking care of this entire house for years, while she does nothing but spend your money and party with her friends. I have done everything you've asked and more. And I never get any appreciation or respect or even basic courtesy. All I'm asking for is 30 minutes to finish this interview so I can maybe, finally, get a job and move out. The silence that followed was deafening. Chloe's mouth hung open in shock. Arthur finally looked up from his newspaper, his expression darkening. And my mother's face went from red to nearly purple with rage. You want to talk about respect? You want to talk about what you've done for this family? Let me show you what happens when you disrespect me in my own home. She moved so fast I didn't have time to react. Her hand shot out and grabbed the back of one of the wooden kitchen chairs, one of the heavy oak chairs that had been at that table since I was a child. For a split second, I thought she was just steadying herself, that she was too angry to stand without support. Then she lifted it. The world seemed to slow down. I saw her grip tighten on the chair back, saw her arms raise it above her shoulder, saw the muscles in her jaw clench as she swung it toward me. I tried to move, tried to push back from the table, tried to dodge, tried to do anything. But the kitchen was small, and I was trapped between the table and the wall. The corner of the chair caught me on my left side. The impact brutal and shocking. I felt the wood connect with my ribs first, driving the air from my lungs. Then as I twisted away instinctively, the edge raked across my lower back, tearing through the fabric of my new blouse and gouging into my skin. The pain was immediate and overwhelming. It felt like being hit by lightning, like every nerve ending in my body suddenly caught fire at once. I screamed. The sound was raw and primal, not even human really, just pure animal reaction to trauma. My legs gave out and I fell, my hands scrabbling at the table edge trying to catch myself. I ended up on my knees on the kitchen floor. As my back arching, as I tried to get away from the pain even though it was part of me now, carved into my skin, through the haze of agony, I heard my father's voice. Calm, measured, detached. He didn't even look up from his newspaper. Pain teaches faster than words. Maybe now she'll learn some respect. I lifted my head, tears streaming down my face, and saw Chloe. She was laughing, not just smiling or smirking, but genuinely laughing. Her phone held up, recording the whole thing. The little red record button was visible on her screen. She was capturing my humiliation, my pain, my destruction, and she was enjoying it. Oh my God. That was perfect. This is definitely going on my story. Look at you. So pathetic, you should see your face right now. I managed to turn my head toward my laptop screen. Patricia was still there. Her face had gone completely white. Her hand was covering her mouth. She looked horrified, frozen, unable to process what she'd just witnessed. Our eyes met through the screen for one brief moment. I saw pity there. Maybe some fear? Definitely disgust. though I couldn't tell if it was directed at my family or at me for being part of such a spectacle. Then the screen went black. She'd ended the call. My mother stood over me, the chair still in her hands, breathing heavily. She looked down at me with something that might have been satisfaction. Now, get up. Clean Chloe's room. Do the laundry. Make dinner. And don't even think about leaving this house until I say you can. Do you understand me? I couldn't speak. Couldn't do anything but kneel there. My back on fire. My future in ashes. My dignity shredded as thoroughly as my new blouse. I nodded. What else could I do? She dropped the chair. It landed with a heavy thunk next to me. Then she turned and walked away, her heels clicking against the floor. Chloe followed her, still giggling, probably already uploading the video. My father rustled his newspaper and kept reading. I don't know how long I stayed on that floor. Minutes. Maybe longer. Eventually, the pain dulled from white-hot agony to a deep, throbbing ache that radiated from my lower back through my entire body. I pushed myself up slowly. Using the table leg for support, my hands were shaking so badly I could barely grip anything. I looked at my laptop. The interview window was closed. My email was open on another tab. I clicked to my inbox with trembling fingers. There was already a new message. The subject line read, Remarketing Coordinator Position. I didn't need to open it to know what it said, but I did anyway. Some part of me needed to see it. Needed to have it confirmed in writing. Dear Miss Vance, thank you for your time today. After careful consideration, we have decided to move forward with other candidates who are a better fit for our team environment. We wish you the best in your future endeavors. I closed the laptop, closed my eyes, took a breath that hurt because my ribs were bruised where the chair had hit me first. Then I stood up, slowly, carefully, and went to clean Chloe's room. The room was exactly as Chloe had described it. A disaster. Clothes thrown everywhere, makeup scattered across every surface, food wrappers and empty bottles and Amazon packaging littering the floor. It smelled like perfume and sweat and something spoiled that I couldn't quite identify. This was the room of someone who'd never had to clean up after herself, who'd never faced a single consequence for her actions, who'd been given everything and appreciated nothing. I cleaned it. Every inch. I picked up each piece of clothing and either hung it or put it in her hamper. I threw away all the trash. I organized her makeup. I dusted and vacuumed and even changed her sheets because they smelled like she hadn't washed them in weeks. It took me 3 hours. My back screamed the entire time, the pain getting worse every time I bent over or reached for something. When I was finished, the room looked like it belonged in a magazine. Perfect. Pristine. Ready for Chloe to destroy again within days. I went downstairs. My mother was on the couch watching television. She didn't look up. I'm going to my room. Dinner is at 6. Don't be late. I went down to the basement, locked the door behind me, sat on my bed and carefully, gingerly, pulled off what remained of my ruined blouse. The fabric stuck to my back where blood had dried, and I had to peel it away slowly. In the small mirror above my dresser, I could see the damage. A long, angry gash running diagonally across my lower back. Maybe 6 inches long. It wasn't deep enough to need stitches, but it was deep enough to scar Ali. The edges were jagged and raw. Already, a massive bruise was forming around it. Deep, purple, and black. I cleaned it as best I could with soap and water. Found some antibiotic ointment in the bathroom upstairs when everyone was distracted by their shows. Bandaged it with gauze and medical tape. Put on an old t-shirt that was too big and wouldn't rub against the wound. Then I lay on my bed, staring at the water-stained ceiling, and felt something inside me fundamentally change. I'd spent 26 years trying to be good enough, trying to earn their love, their approval, their basic respect. I'd convinced myself that if I just worked harder, if I just did more, if I just asked for less, they'd eventually see me as valuable, as worthy, as human. But that was never going to happen. I could see that now with brutal clarity. They didn't see me as a person. They saw me as a resource, a tool, something to be used until it broke and then discarded. The pain in my back was real and immediate, but it was nothing compared to the pain of that realization. I picked up my phone. My hands were steadier now. the shock wearing off, replaced by something colder and harder. I scrolled through my contacts until I found Daniel Morrison. We'd gone to community college together before he transferred to a 4-year university and eventually law school. We'd stayed loosely in touch through social media, the occasional like or comment on each other's posts. He'd always been kind to me, always treated me like I mattered. I opened a message to him and started typing. Hey Daniel, I know this is random and we haven't talked in a while, but I need legal advice. Something happened today and I think I need help. Can we talk? I hit send before I could second guess myself. Then I lay back down and waited. He responded within 30 minutes. Of course. I'm sorry you're going through something. Call me any time tonight. I'm free after Suv. I watched the clock tick by. At 7:05. I called him. Aurora. Hey, what's going on? Are you okay? The concern in his voice nearly broke me. I hadn't heard anyone express genuine concern for my well-being in so long that I'd forgotten what it felt like. I'm not okay. I need to ask you something and I need you to be honest with me. If someone forges your signature on legal documents and uses your identity to claim benefits they're not entitled to, is that illegal? There was a pause. When Daniel spoke again, his voice had shifted from concern to professional focus. Yes, that's identity theft. Fraud. Potentially multiple felonies, depending on the specifics. Why are you asking? Has someone done that to you? I think so. I think my parents have been doing it for years. But I need to be sure before I do anything about it. I need to see proof. Do you have access to any documents, any evidence? Maybe. There's a safe in the garage. I've seen my father put papers in there. I know the combination. Aurora, if this is what you think it is, this is serious. Like, federal crime serious. Before you go looking, I need you to understand what you're potentially opening up. If you find evidence and report it, your parents could face prison time, major fines, complete financial ruin. Is that something you're prepared to deal with? I touched the bandage on my back, felt the sting of the wound beneath it. Yes, I'm prepared. Okay, be careful. Document everything. Take photos. Don't remove anything from where it is. And call me as soon as you know what you've found. I will. Thank you. Daniel. Aurora, whatever's happening, whatever led you to this point, I want you to know that you deserve better. You deserve safety and respect and a life that's yours. Don't forget that. I hung up before I started crying. That night, I waited until I heard my father snoring from upstairs. The deep rumbling sound that meant he was fully asleep. Waited until the house had been quiet for at least an hour. It was 3:15 in the morning when I finally crept up the basement stairs. The house was dark, except for the nightlight in the upstairs hallway. I moved carefully, avoiding the squeaky spots on the floor that I'd memorized over years of late night, wandering when I couldn't sleep. Through the kitchen, out the back door, into the garage. The garage smelled exactly like I remembered. Motor oil and dust and old lawn equipment. My father's tools hung on pegboards along one wall, organized with a precision that he never applied to his family relationships. The safe sat in the back corner. Is a old-fashioned floor model safe that was probably older than I was. I knelt in front of it, my back protesting the movement. The combination lock was the kind with 3 dials. I reached out with shaking hands and turned them slowly, careful not to make any sound that might carry back to the house. 22. My birthday. 15. The day I graduated high school. 8. How old I'd been when my sister was born. The lock clicked. I pulled the heavy door open. Inside was a stack of folders, each one meticulously labeled in my father's neat handwriting. I pulled them out one by one, my heart pounding so hard, I thought it might burst out of my chest. I used my phone flashlight to read them, taking photos of every page as I went. The first folder was labeled Life Insurance. Inside were policy documents from 3 different insurance companies. Each one listed me as the insured party. Each one named my mother as the primary beneficiary. The signature on each application was supposed to be mine. I'd never seen any of these documents before in my life. Never signed anything. Never agreed to any insurance policies. But there was my signature, or a close approximation of it, on every single page. The second folder was worse: student loans and financial aid. Inside were applications for federal student loans, private loans, grants, and scholarships, all in my name, all with my signature. The total amount was staggering: over $70,000 across 6 years of supposed education. The thing was, I'd only gone to community college for 2 years. I'd paid for it myself with money from part-time jobs. I'd never taken out a single loan because I couldn't bear the thought of being in debt. Yet here were documents showing that I'd borrowed thousands of dollars every semester for 6 years, attending schools I'd never enrolled in, pursuing degrees I'd never heard of. There were bank statements showing where the money had gone. Not to tuition, not to books or housing or any educational expenses. The deposits went straight into accounts in my parents' names. Then withdrawals for car payments, credit card bills, home improvements, Chloe's private dance lessons and cheerleading competitions, and spring break trips. They'd built their entire lifestyle on money borrowed in my name. Money I'd be responsible for paying back. Money I'd never seen a penny of. I found notes in my mother's handwriting detailing how much they'd received each semester, how they'd allocated it, which bills they'd paid with it. It was all there in black and white. Premeditated. Calculated. Not a mistake or a misunderstanding, but deliberate fraud spanning years. The third folder made me physically ill: benefits and assistance programs. Inside were applications for government assistance, housing subsidies, food stamps, medical coverage, disability benefits, all filed claiming me as a dependent adult with various physical and mental disabilities that required round-the-clock care. I didn't have any disabilities. I'd never been diagnosed with anything beyond mild seasonal allergies. But according to these documents, I was severely disabled, unable to work, requiring constant supervision and care. My parents had been collecting benefits on my behalf for 8 years, thousands of dollars every month, none of which had ever been used for my care because I didn't need care. The fourth folder contained something called a durable power of attorney for financial management. It was dated to when I was 18, just a few months after my birthday. According to the document, I had willingly given my parents complete control over all financial matters in my name. Every bank account, every credit card, every loan, every benefit, everything. The notary stamp looked official. The signature looked exactly like mine would have at 18. A little less practiced than my current signature, but close enough. I'd never signed it. I'd never even heard of a power of attorney until I started researching online earlier that evening. But there it was. Legal. Binding. Giving them total control over my identity and my financial future. I sat on the cold concrete floor of that garage, surrounded by evidence of years of systematic exploitation, and felt something inside me crystallize. Not anger, though that was there. Not pain, though I was drowning in it. Something colder. Something clearer. Certainty. They had used me, exploited me, stolen my identity and my future, and built their comfortable life on top of my destroyed one. And they'd done it all while treating me like I was worthless. Like I should be grateful for the scraps they threw me. Like I was the problem. I took photos of everything. Every single page. Every signature. Every statement. Every note. I uploaded them all to a cloud drive. Made backups on 2 different services, just to be absolutely sure they couldn't be lost or destroyed. Then I carefully put everything back exactly as I'd found it. Closed the safe. Spun the combination lock to randomize the numbers. Returned to the house. It was almost 5 in the morning. I had maybe 2 hours before people started waking up. I went to my basement room and made a list. 1. Contact Daniel. Give him all the evidence. Get clear legal guidance on next steps. 2. Report the fraud to the appropriate authorities. Social Services. The Department of Financial Protection. The IRS. Probably. 3. Find a job. Any job. Somewhere far enough away that they couldn't follow me or manipulate me or pull me back in. 4. Disappear. I opened my laptop and started applying to jobs in other states. I didn't care what they were anymore. Administrative positions. Customer service. Retail. Anything that would pay enough to cover rent and food. I applied to positions in Oregon, Washington, Colorado, North Carolina, Anywhere that was far from here. Then I sent Daniel all the photos with a brief explanation. He responded, even though it was barely dawn. This is extensive and damning. I'm forwarding you to contacts at the State Fraud Investigation Unit and Federal Financial Crimes Division. They'll want to interview you. Document everything from now on. And Aurora, are you safe? Do you need to get out of there immediately? I'm safe for now. But I need to time this right. I can't report it and then still be living here. Understood. Let me know what you need. At 7 a.m., I heard people stirring upstairs. I forced myself up, wincing at the pain in my back, and went to make breakfast, because that's what was expected. That's what I did every morning, no matter what had happened the day before. My mother came into the kitchen already dressed for the day, her hair perfect, makeup applied. She glanced at me and then away, like I was furniture. There's a load of laundry in the basement. Make sure you fold everything properly this time. Chloe's delicates need special care. Okay, and I need you to go grocery shopping later. The list is on the refrigerator. Don't come back without everything on it. Okay. She paused, studying me for a moment. You're being very agreeable this morning. I met her eyes, smiled slightly. I'm just trying to learn from my mistakes. Like Dad said, pain teaches faster than words. I think I'm finally understanding the lesson. Something flickered across her face. Confusion, maybe. Suspicion. But she nodded and turned away. Over the next week, I played the role perfectly. Obedient daughter. Dutiful servant. I cleaned and cooked and did laundry and ran errands. I didn't complain. Didn't argue. Didn't ask for anything. My back healed slowly. The wound closing into an angry red scar. The bruise fading from black to purple to yellow-green. But while I played that role during the day, at night I was busy. I had 3 video interviews for out-of-state positions. 2 of them went nowhere. The third one, for an administrative position at a small tech startup in Portland, went well. Really well. They asked about my employment history, and I was honest about the gaps. Explaining that I'd been providing family care. The hiring manager, a woman named Jennifer, nodded sympathetically. I did the same thing for my mother for 2 years. It's incredibly difficult work that doesn't get nearly enough recognition. We actually see that kind of experience as valuable here. It shows dedication and the ability to handle multiple responsibilities simultaneously. I got the job. $35,000 a year. Not a fortune, but enough. More than enough to start over. I also met with investigators from the Social Services Fraud Investigation Unit and an agent from the Financial Crimes Division of the FBI. I gave them everything. The photos, the timeline, my testimony. They asked detailed questions about my parents' activities, their spending habits, whether I'd ever given consent for any of the documents. The lead investigator, a tired-looking woman in her 50s named Detective Sarah Miller, looked at me seriously after I'd finished explaining everything. Ms. Vance, what your parents have done is extensive identity theft and fraud across multiple government agencies and financial institutions. When we pursue this, and we will pursue this based on what you've shown us, they'll face serious criminal charges. Your sister may also be implicated depending on whether she benefited from the fraud knowingly. Are you certain you want to proceed with this? I thought about that morning in the kitchen. The chair, the pain, the laughter, my father's casual cruelty, all the years of being treated as less than human. Yes, I'm certain. What they did was wrong. They deserve to face the consequences. They do. It will be difficult for you too. You'll have to testify. You'll likely be estranged from your family. Perhaps permanently. This kind of thing doesn't lead to reconciliation. I understand. She nodded slowly. Okay. We'll need about 2 weeks to build the case and get everything organized. We'll execute search warrants and make arrests simultaneously so they can't destroy evidence. I'll contact you before we move so you're not blindsided by it. Actually, I need to know the exact day. I need to not be there when it happens. Why? I lifted the back of my shirt just enough to show her the scar. Because I'm not safe there. And I need to be gone before they realize what I've done. Her expression hardened. Did they do that to you, my mother? With a chair. 3 weeks ago. Did you report it? No. Why not? Because I needed time to get everything else together first. Because if I'd reported it then, they would have known I was planning something, and they would have destroyed the evidence. And because part of me still hoped it was an isolated incident, not a pattern. But it is a pattern. Yes. She made some notes. We'll coordinate your departure with the arrests. You'll be out before they're taken in. Does that work? Yes. Thank you. I found a studio apartment in Portland through a timeline listing the meter. $500 a month. Utilities included. It was tiny. Just a single room with a kitchenette and a bathroom that barely had space for a toilet and shower. But it was mine. Actually mine. I paid the deposit with money I'd saved from odd jobs. Money I'd hidden away in that tampon box for years. I bought a plane ticket. One way. Portland International Airport. I started packing. Not everything. Because I didn't want to tip anyone off. Just essentials. Some clothes. My laptop. Important document. Photos from when I was young and my family still sometimes pretended to love me. Everything fit in 2 suitcases and a backpack. My entire life. Reduced to what I could carry. Detective Miller called me on a Thursday morning 3 weeks after our first meeting. We're executing the warrants tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. Can you be out by then? Yes. Good luck. Ms. Vance. For what it's worth, you're doing the right thing. I wasn't sure if that was true, but I knew it was the necessary thing. That night, I barely slept. I lay on my lumpy mattress in my basement room for the last time, listening to the house settle around me. Upstairs, my family slept peacefully, unaware that their world was about to implode. I thought about waking them up, confronting them, explaining exactly what they'd done and why I was doing this. I played out different versions of the conversation in my head. Some where they apologized and begged for forgiveness. Some where they denied everything and blamed me. Some where violence erupted again, but in the end, I decided silence was better. Let them find out the same way they'd done everything to me. Without warning. Without compassion. Without care. At 5 a.m., I got up for the last time. I showered and dressed in comfortable travel clothes. I made my bed out of habit, even though no one would ever see it. I took one last look around the basement room that had been my prison for so many years. Then I carried my bags upstairs as quietly as possible. The house was still dark, still silent. I paused in the kitchen, looking around at the place where my mother had attacked me, the table where I'd lost my job opportunity, the floor where I'd bled and cried while my family laughed. I didn't feel sad. I felt nothing, just a strange emptiness where emotion should have been. I wrote a note. Short and simple. I left it on the kitchen table where they'd find it. I'm leaving. Don't look for me. You won't find me. What happens next? You brought on yourselves. Maybe pain will teach you something too. I signed it. Aurora. Not Rory. They'd called me Rory since I was little. A nickname meant to be affectionate, but that had long since become diminutive. Infantilizing. Aurora was my name. My choice. My identity. I called an Uber. It arrived at 547 a.m. I loaded my bags into the trunk. I took one last look at the house I'd grown up in, and got in the car. Airport, please. The driver nodded and pulled away from the curb. I watched the house recede in the rearview mirror until we turned the corner and it disappeared from view. My flight left at 8:30. I was at the gate, boarding pass in hand, when my phone started ringing. My mother. I declined the call. She called again. Declined. A text came through. Where are you? There are police at the house. What did you do? I turned off my phone. The flight attendant called my boarding group. I stood up, grabbed my bag, and walked onto the plane. Found my seat, buckled in. As the plane taxied toward the runway, I felt the tension I'd been carrying for 26 years start to ease just slightly. When we lifted off, leaving the ground behind, I looked out the window at the city below and thought, maybe for the first time in my life, this is what freedom feels like. The apartment in Portland was even smaller than the photos had suggested. The kitchenette was a hot plate, a mini fridge, and 18 inches of counter space. The bathroom shower had no tub and barely enough room to turn around. The single window looked out onto an alley. It was perfect. I spent my first day alone in Portland, setting up my new life. I unpacked my clothes, hanging them in the tiny closet. I set up my laptop on the rickety table that came with the place. I went to a nearby grocery store and bought basic supplies. Bread, peanut butter, instant coffee, ramen noodles. A real celebration meal would have to wait until my first paycheck. I started work the following Monday. The tech startup was exactly as advertised. Small and chaotic but full of energy. Jennifer, my new boss, was patient and kind, walking me through their systems and processes without any hint of judgment or frustration. My coworkers were friendly in that distant, professional way of people who don't yet know if you'll stick around. I kept my head down and worked hard. I learned quickly. I stayed late when needed and came in early when asked. After 3 weeks, Jennifer pulled me aside. "You're doing great work here, Aurora. Really impressive. Especially considering you're still learning our systems. Have you thought about taking on some additional responsibilities? I'd like that." "Good. I'm moving you to a project coordinator role. It comes with a small raise and more interaction with our clients." "Sound good. Sounds perfect." Meanwhile, back home, everything was burning down. Daniel kept me updated, feeding me information as the case progressed. My parents had been arrested on 12 counts of fraud, 6 counts of identity theft, and multiple counts of benefits fraud. The search warrant had turned up everything I'd photographed, plus additional evidence they hadn't even known to look for. Bank records showing systematic transfers of fraudulent funds, email conversations between my parents discussing the best way to forge my signature, text messages between my mother and sister laughing about how stupid I was for not noticing. The prosecution was building an ironclad case. My parents' lawyer tried to negotiate a plea deal, but the prosecutor wasn't interested. This was too big, too systematic, too deliberate. They wanted to make an example. Chloe had been questioned extensively but not charged. She claimed she didn't know the source of the money supporting her lifestyle, that she'd just assumed our parents were well off. The investigators were skeptical but couldn't prove she'd known about the fraud. What they could prove was that her student loans had been taken out in my name without my knowledge. Those loans were now being investigated and potentially discharged as fraudulent, which meant Chloe's degree was under review. The university wanted proof that her tuition had been paid legally. She couldn't provide it. They threatened to revoke her diploma. My mother tried calling me dozens of times. I blocked her number. She sent letters to my old address. They were forwarded to a P.O. box I'd set up specifically for this purpose. I didn't open them. My father sent a single email through an address I didn't recognize. He must have gotten it from somewhere. Some old application or account. The subject line was "Please." I deleted it without reading it. Chloe, predictably, took to social media. She posted long emotional rants about family betrayal and vindictive siblings and false accusations. She painted herself as the victim of my cruelty. A loving sister whose family had been torn apart by lies. Some people believed her. Her comments filled with supportive messages from friends and followers who didn't know the truth, but others were skeptical. Some pointed out inconsistencies in her story. A few people who'd seen her video of my assault asked why she'd deleted it if she was so innocent. She blocked everyone who questioned her and eventually made her accounts private. 4 months after I'd left, the trial began. I flew back for it, staying in a hotel, far from my old neighborhood. Daniel met me at the airport and drove me to the courthouse. Walking into that building felt surreal, like stepping into a different reality where actions actually had consequences. The prosecution called me as their first witness. I took the stand, placed my hand on the Bible, swore to tell the truth. The prosecutor was a sharp woman in her 40s named Rebecca Chen. She walked me through everything methodically. My relationship with my family, the years of exploitation, the documents I'd discovered, the assault. "Ms. Vance, can you show the court the injury you sustained on the morning of March 28th? I stood up and turned around, lifted the back of my shirt. The scar was still visible, a poly line across my lower back. There were audible gasps from the jury box. "Your Honor, I'd like to enter into evidence photographs of this injury taken within 24 hours of the assault, showing the extent of the wound and bruising." The photos were displayed on screens throughout the courtroom. Even months later, Avon healed. They were shocking. The raw wound, the massive bruise, the torn skin. I looked at my mother. She was staring at her hands, refusing to meet my eyes. My father looked gray and old, diminished somehow. The defense tried to discredit me, suggested I'd faked the documents, claimed I was a troubled daughter with a history of lying, implied I'd hurt myself for attention. But they couldn't explain away the forensic evidence, the expert testimony on the forged signatures, the financial records, the government officials who testified about benefit fraud, the paper trail that led directly back to my parents. The trial lasted 2 weeks. The jury deliberated for 6 hours. Guilty on all counts. The sentencing came a month later. My mother received 4 years in federal prison. My father got 6 because he'd been the primary architect of the scheme, the one who'd forged most of the documents. They were also ordered to pay restitution. Every cent they'd stolen, plus interest and penalties. It would bankrupt them. Their house went into foreclosure. Their cars were repossessed. Their bank accounts were drained to cover the initial restitution payments. Everything they'd built on my stolen identity, gone. Clue lost her degree. The university officially revoked it, pending investigation into her funding sources. Her job offers evaporated. She ended up moving in with our aunt in another state, taking a job at a grocery store to pay her bills. I heard all of this secondhand, through Daniel, and through news articles about the case. I didn't reach out to anyone, didn't try to reconcile or offer support or do anything at all. I just lived my life. 6 months after the trial, Jennifer promoted me again. I was managing a small team now, coordinating complex projects with multiple stakeholders. I was good at it, really good. The work was challenging and engaging and made me feel like I was contributing something meaningful to the world. I made friends, real friends, not people who tolerated me or used me or saw me as a burden. Sarah from accounting, who invited me to her book club. Marcus from tech support, who shared my obsession with true crime podcasts. Lynn from HR, who dragged me to yoga classes even though I was terrible at it. I moved to a better apartment. Nothing fancy, but it had a real kitchen and a bedroom separate from the living space and windows that actually let in sunlight. I bought real furniture. Cheap stuff from IKEA that I assembled myself. But it was mine and I'd chosen it, and that made it beautiful. I started therapy. My therapist, Dr. Patterson, was a woman in her 60s who specialized in family trauma and complex PTSD. She didn't judge me for what I'd done to my family. She helped me understand that setting boundaries, even brutal ones, wasn't cruelty. It was survival. You spent your entire life being taught that your needs didn't matter. She told me during one session that your pain was less important than their comfort, that you existed to serve them. Unlearning that, reclaiming your right to exist as a full person. That's not revenge. That's healing. It feels like revenge sometimes. Does that bother you? I thought about it. No, not really. Then maybe you're confusing justice with revenge. Justice is consequences for harmful actions. Revenge is inflicting unnecessary pain. What you did was report crimes. Seek justice. Protect yourself. That you feel satisfaction from them finally facing consequences for their actions. That's normal and healthy. My mother wrote me another letter. It was forwarded to my P.O. box. Did you read it? No. Do you want to? Part of me does. Part of me wants to know if she understands what she did. If she's sorry. And if she is, would that change anything? No. Then it doesn't matter if she's sorry or not. What matters is how you move forward. I thought about that a lot over the following months. How I moved forward. What kind of person I wanted to be. Whether I was defined by what had been done to me or by what I chose to do next. I decided to volunteer. There was an organization in Portland that helped young adults who were escaping abusive family situations. I started by helping with their donation drives, sorting clothes and household items. Then I started attending their support groups, not as a participant, but as a listener. Eventually, I started sharing my own story, not the details of the trial or the sentences, just the before and after. What it felt like to be trapped, what it took to escape, how scary freedom was at first, and how good it felt once you got used to it. One evening after a group session, a girl approached me. She was maybe 19, thin and nervous. with bruises on her arms that her long sleeves didn't quite cover. Your story. About your family using you. Mine do that too. They take my paychecks. All of them. They say I owe them for raising me. I want to leave, but I don't know how. I sat down with her. We talked for 2 hours. I gave her the same resources that had helped me: contact information for legal aid, domestic violence shelters, job training programs. I told her it was possible. Scary, but possible. 6 months later, she came to another meeting. She'd left. She had her own apartment and a new job in custody of her paychecks. She looked different, lighter, like she'd been carrying a weight that someone had finally helped her set down. Thank you, she told me, for showing me it could be done. You did it yourself. I just told you it was possible. Sometimes that's all someone needs to hear. I thought about that conversation a lot. About the power of stories. About how knowing that someone else had survived something gave you permission to believe you could survive it too. A year after I'd left, I got a call from an unknown number. I almost didn't answer it, but something made me pick up. Aurora. The voice was hesitant. Female. Familiar but changed somehow. Who is this? It's Mom. My first instinct was to hang up. My finger hovered over the end call button. But curiosity won out. How did you get this number, Daniel? Your lawyer friend. I wrote to him and begged him to just give you a message. He said he wouldn't, but if you wanted to call me, he'd pass along my number. I've been hoping you'd call for months. When you didn't, I decided to try calling you instead. Please don't hang up. What do you want? Morgan. The use of her first name, not Mom, was deliberate. She noticed. I heard her breath catch. I want to talk to you. I need to explain. There's nothing to explain. You stole from me. You abused me. You built your entire life on exploiting me, and then you assaulted me when I dared to want something for myself. Those are facts. They don't need explanation. I know. You're right. Everything you just said is true. I'm not calling to deny any of it, or to ask you to forgive me. I just need you to know that I understand now. What I did. What we did. How wrong it was. You understand now after you got caught and sentenced and lost everything. Where was that understanding? When you hit me with a chair, I don't have an excuse. I was angry and cruel, and I took out my frustrations on someone who couldn't fight back. You were the easiest target. I'm ashamed of that. I'm ashamed of everything. I didn't say anything. Just waited. Your father and I are in different facilities. I've only seen him once since sentencing. A looks terribly old, broken. Chloe won't talk to either of us. She blames us for ruining her life. She's not wrong to blame us. Is there a point to this call? I wanted you to know that we're paying for what we did, not just legally, but in every way. We destroyed our family. We destroyed you, and now we're living with the consequences of that every single day. Good. The word came out flat and cold. She was quiet for a long moment. You really hate us. Don't you know? I don't feel anything for you at all. Hate would require caring. I don't care what happens to you or Dad or Chloe. You're not my family. You're just people I used to know who hurt me repeatedly until I made them stop. Aurora. Don't try to make this into something it's not. You're not calling because you care about me. You're calling because you're lonely and miserable and you want to feel like someone still sees you as human. But I can't give you that. I gave you everything for 26 years and it was never enough. I have nothing left for you. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness. You don't. And you're never going to get it. Can I ask you one thing? What are you happy? Wherever you are. Whatever you're doing. Are you happy I thought about my apartment? My job? My friends? The support group I ran? The life I'd built from absolute zero? The fact that I could wake up every morning without fear or dread or the weight of other people's expectations crushing me? Yes. I'm happy. Happier than I ever was in that house. Good. I'm glad. You deserve to be happy. You always did. I'm sorry I couldn't see that when it mattered. Goodbye. Morgan. I hung up before she could respond. I stood there holding my phone, waiting for some emotional response to hit me. Sadness. Anger. Relief. Something. But I felt nothing. Just the same emptiness I'd felt the morning I left. Dr. Patterson asked me about the call in our next session. How do you feel about talking to her? I don't know. It was strange. She sounded different. Smaller. Did you believe her apology? I think she believes it. I think prison has given her a lot of time to think about what she did, and she's genuinely sorry now. But that doesn't change anything. No, it doesn't. Remorse doesn't erase harm. It's the absolute minimum she should feel. She asked if I was happy. What did you tell her? The truth. That I am happy. Are you, or were you just saying that to hurt her? I considered the question carefully. Both, maybe. But mostly true. I like my life here. I like who I'm becoming. I like waking up and knowing that the day is mine to use however I want. That's a kind of happiness I never thought I'd have. That's growth. Aurora. Real. Meaningful growth. You've done something incredibly difficult. You've separated yourself from toxic patterns and built something new. You should be proud of that. I am. But sometimes I wonder if I'm damaged now in ways I can't see. If what they did broke something in me permanently. You are changed by what you experienced. But changed isn't the same as broken. A broken thing can't function. You're functioning beautifully. You're thriving. You're helping others thrive. That's not broken. That's resilience. 2 years after I left, my father died. Heart attack in prison. Quick. Apparently. Daniel called to tell me. Asked if I wanted details or if I wanted to be notified about funeral arrangements. No. To both. Okay. I just thought you should know. Thanks for telling me. I hung up and went back to work. Finished my day. Went home. Made dinner. Watched TV. Went to bed. I didn't cry. Didn't feel grief or relief or anything at all. He was just someone I used to know who was now dead. I didn't even dream about him. The next day at work felt normal. That evening at my support group, one of the participants asked me how I was doing. My father died yesterday. The room went quiet. Oh my God. I'm so sorry. Are you okay? Do you need to take time to process? I'm fine. We weren't in contact. Haven't been for years. It doesn't really affect me. One of the newer members looked confused. How can you be so calm about it? He was your father. Biology doesn't create obligation. He stopped being my father when he watched my mother assault me and said it was a lesson I needed to learn. Everything after that was just waiting for the relationship to officially end. His death just made it official. The room stayed quiet. But I saw understanding on some faces. The people who'd been coming to these meetings longest, who'd had to cut ties with their own toxic families. They got it. After the meeting, Sarah pulled me aside. That was really brave. What you said in there. About your father. It didn't feel brave. It just felt true. Same thing sometimes. My mother was released after serving 3 years of her 4-year sentence. Good behavior. Apparently, I found out through a news article Daniel sent me. There was a photo of her leaving the prison. She looked a decade older than when she'd gone in. Gray hair. No makeup. Cheap clothes. The picture of defeat. The article mentioned that she was moving in with her sister in Arizona, that she'd be on probation for 5 more years, that she owed hundreds of thousands in restitution, that she'd likely never be able to pay. I read the article once and then closed it. Didn't save it or share it or think about it again. 3 years after I left, I got a new job. A senior project manager position at a larger firm. $60,000 a year. Benefits. A 401k. 4 weeks of vacation. It felt like winning the lottery. I moved to an actual 1-bedroom apartment in a nice neighborhood. Bought real furniture. Not IKEA, but actual quality pieces that would last. Hung art on the walls. Got a cat. An orange tabby I named Phoenix because it felt appropriate. I went on dates. Some went well. Some didn't. I learned that I had trust issues and abandonment wounds and a tendency to expect the worst from people. But I also learned that not everyone was going to hurt me. Some people were actually kind and honest and safe. I didn't get into a serious relationship. Wasn't ready for that level of vulnerability. But I had fun. Learned what I liked and didn't like. Started to understand that I was allowed to have preferences and standards, and that wanting to be treated well wasn't asking too much. 4 years after I left, I went back to school. Part-time. Online. Working toward a degree in social work. It felt right. Using my experience to help others. Turning pain into purpose. My professors were impressed by my passion for the work. My classmates sometimes commented on how much I seemed to understand about trauma and resilience. I didn't tell most of them my story. It wasn't necessary. The work spoke for itself. 5 years after I left, I got an email from an address I didn't recognize. The subject line was, "From Chloe." I stared at it for a long time before opening it. Aurora, I know you probably don't want to hear from me. I know I don't have the right to contact you after everything that happened. But I need to say something, and I don't know if I'll ever have the courage again if I don't do it now. I'm sorry. For everything. For how I treated you growing up. For laughing when Mom hurt you. For recording it and posting it. For being so selfish and cruel and blind to what you were going through. I've had a lot of time to think about who I was back then. I was spoiled and entitled, and I genuinely believed you were less important than me because Mom and Dad treated you that way. I never questioned it. Never wondered if maybe they were wrong and I was wrong and you deserved better. Losing everything was horrible. My degree, my opportunities, my lifestyle. All of it gone in an instant. I was so angry at you for so long. I blamed you for destroying our family. But then I had to live without Mom and Dad's money for the first time in my life. I had to work actual jobs and pay actual bills and deal with actual consequences for my actions. And I started to understand things I'd never understood before. How hard it must have been for you. How much you did that I never appreciated. How much of my comfortable life was built on your suffering. I don't expect you to forgive me. I don't even expect you to respond to this email. I just needed to say it out loud. Or in writing, I guess. That I was wrong. That you deserved better. That I'm sorry I couldn't see that when it mattered. If you ever want to talk, I'm here. If you never want to hear from me again, I understand that too. Take care of yourself. You always did. Even when the rest of us wouldn't. Chloe, I read it 3 times. Sat with it for a week. Eventually replied, Chloe, I appreciate you taking the time to write this. I can tell you've grown, and that's genuinely good. Growth is always worth celebrating. But I don't think we can have a relationship. Too much happened. Too much damage was done. I don't trust you, and I don't think I ever will. That's not me being cruel. That's just me being honest. I hope you continue to grow and learn and become a better person. I hope you build a good life for yourself. I hope you find happiness. But I hope you do all of that without me in it. Some things can't be fixed. Our relationship is one of them. Take care. Aurora, she didn't reply. I didn't expect her to. 6 years after I left, I finished my degree. Walked across the stage at graduation with my online cohort at a ceremony held in Seattle. Daniel drove up from Portland to watch. So did Jennifer and several other friends I'd made over the years. They cheered when my name was called. Aurora Vance, Master of Social Work. Not a doctorate. Not some prestigious degree from an elite school. But mine. Earned with my own effort. Paid for with my own money. Representing my own future. After the ceremony, we went to dinner. Someone made a toast. To Aurora, who proved that you can overcome anything if you're stubborn enough and brave enough to choose yourself. I raised my glass. To choosing yourself. Every single day. We drank to that. Now, 7 years later, I have a life I built myself. A career that matters. Friends who chose me. An apartment full of things I picked out. A cat who curls up next to me every night. A therapist who helps me continue healing. A support group I facilitate where I help others find their own paths to freedom. I don't talk to my family. My mother is somewhere in Arizona. Chloe is somewhere building her own life. I don't know where, and I don't ask. Sometimes I still touch the scar on my back. Trace its shape in the mirror before I get dressed. It's faded now. Just a pale line that you wouldn't notice unless you knew to look for it. But I know it's there. It reminds me of what I survived. What I escaped. What I refuse to ever accept again. It reminds me that pain does teach. But not the lesson they thought. It taught me my worth. It taught me my boundaries. It taught me that sometimes love isn't enough. That family can be your enemy. That the only person guaranteed to save you is yourself. Would I have chosen an easier path if one existed? I don't know. Maybe. But there wasn't an easier path. There was only survival or surrender. I chose survival. I chose myself, and every single day, I make that choice again. The question I want to leave you with is this: how much pain are you willing to endure before you choose yourself? How many times will you let people who claim to love you treat you like you're worthless? When does the lesson end and the learning begin? Think about that. And if my story resonated with you, if you've been where I was or you know someone who is, hit that like button. Subscribe because I share more stories of survival and strength every week. And drop a comment telling me your truth. Have you ever had to choose yourself over family? How did it change you? Remember, pain might teach fast, but freedom teaches forever.